Hey there everyone and welcome back to the reactjs training. Now this is a new section in here and we're going to talk about the real meat part of the reactjs, which is the props and the state. And I believe so that in this video we are only going to be able to talk about the react properties only, otherwise video will be too long. But let's get started and talk about, so what are the properties? Now properties basically are a way or a means of communication between one component and another, and basically in most of the cases from parent to the child. Now let me just walk you through what I did behind your back. I know I did that quite a lot of time this time also. So I just like we have created our Hello World project in the very first section, just like exactly the same, I've created a project 3 and called it as props-state. In case you are wondering how I did that, let me just hit a Control C there and show you the commands that I run there. So I created a project mkdir project-3. I went into the project by using cd. I created a create react app, a command. We have already installed it using npm. This is just a quick revision. And after that, I went into it and ran the command npm-start. So a bare minimum skeleton that we have in here, and let me just open that up, and a bare minimum skeleton that we have, and we'll be keeping this skeleton and we'll be working in it. So now let's come back on to the properties. Now if you want to learn what is the properties, just write the code along with me. This is going to be the best example you'll ever see on this site or internet there. So what we want to do is we want to create two components. We want to pass information from one component to another so that we can see how the information is passed on and why we are using it. So just write rcom there. Let me just adjust it a little bit. So rcom for our component. And since the parent-child relationship is quite important in this, I'll name this as simply parent. So this is my parent component. Okay, no big deal. And I'll simply have an h2 tag there. I'll close this h2 tag. And I'll simply say just some info. Okay, no big deal. Now, right now it's not going to yell anything on the screen, but we want to just split this out on our screen. How we can do that? Pretty simple. Just go into your component, which is your app. Just below your parent, just write your parent. So this is parent. Make sure you make it a self-closing tag. So this is how you call the component. As soon as I save it, this is going to display the information on our screen. No big deal. You have already seen that in the first section. Okay, that is good. Now, what I want to do is create another component in here. So again, rcom. And by the way, in case you are wondering how I'm able to do that, writing rcom, hitting the tab, is again, we have already done that into the snippets file there. We have already got one movie for that, how we are making these shortcuts for us and making our life easier. So let's call this as something. So I'll call this as simply cars because, oops, Command C, because cars are super awesome. Now I want to display some information. So I'll simply say here in the h2 tag or maybe h3 tag. So just write an h3 tag and h3 goes in here. And I'll say I am from cars component. There we go, no big deal. Now, in order to get this car's information displaying out here, either we have to call this car in here in the app component, or maybe we can just call it in here as well. That will also work for sure. You can call components inside the components and your component can be built up from multiple components. No big deal there. So I'll simply say I'll call this cars, again self-closing tag. And notice it says I am from cars component. Okay, that is good. We haven't discussed about the properties in here yet. So how we can go ahead do that? Now, let's just say you have got some information that you have cooked up in this class and you want to pass that information in here. How you can do that? Now go into your cars. Let's just say that information that you have cooked up is stored in the message. And that message is cars are cool. Why not? Cars are really cool. So how you can display this information in here? So what I'll be doing, I'll be creating a paragraph tag. Let's just call this as simply paragraph. You can call in any tag, no big deal there. Now I want to just display this information here. Now what is happening? Whenever you call this message, these are known as the properties. So whenever you call a component and you pass on some information like this, and by the way, this can be a string, this can be a number, this can be an array, object, whatever you want to pass on, this can be anything. This is being stored into a global variable or kind of a variable-ish object known as props, and you can access it inside in here. How to access that? You have to call this as this dot props, and then this is the default there, and whatever you are passing in here is stored as an object, and the key for that is MSG. You got the point. I'll save this, and notice it says cars are cool. Okay, now well, you might be saying, hey, I have more information, maybe more object, or maybe an array, or maybe a number. Like for example, I do have a model number there, and I want to pass in. The model number is 34765, just a random number there, random number there. Sorry for the fumble there. But what about if you want to pass on that information? You can do so. I'll click my cursor in here, press Command-Shift-D to duplicate that, and now you would be saying, hey, you know what? You need to get the model information. And it's yelling at us. It's saying, hey, you cannot pass this, that. You have to actually wrap it around in the strings or maybe in an object as well. I'll show you how you can wrap it around in an object as well in this movie. No big deal. But you can see you got the point. You're getting it in here. Now, you might be seeing that, hey, this is all okay. But what about this props? From where this is coming up? Now, in order to clear this confusion, I would like to log this information that what we are actually getting in this dot props. So let's see that. I'll save this and I'll open up my inspect, click on the console, and I'll quickly reload this. And notice, I'll zoom it a little bit, that we are getting an object in here that says MSG as key and cars are cool as value. Again, model, and this we go. So we can see that whatever we are passing on is being stored inside an object known as props, and this is how we are carrying the information. Okay, so properties are cool, properties are good, and in fact properties are so cool that you'll be using quite a lot in your entire course. Okay, so this is good, but what about when I want to pass on some default information and my information is way bigger? It's a complete object that I need to pass on in here. Let's just try that as well. Let's try to pass on an object. Now, in order to do so, I'll just move out of this class, and there is a default method that you can access, like parent dot default props. This is accessible to everybody of the class, and you can store as much as information in here as you wish. Like for example, I do have an entire array of the cars that I want to pass on from the parent to the child. So what I can do, I can simply say cars. And as soon as I say cars, I can define my array, or maybe let's just try array this time. So I'll be saying some of the cars like BMW, and what else is there? So I'll have Merc there, and what else? I'll have a city there, and oops, and what else? I can have an Audi there. So that looks good. So we have now a component. You can pass more keys, object, whatever you wish to have in here. That is okay. So what you want to do, how you can pass this information in here. I'll be just saving this in here. Right now we are not interested in much in here. So I want to pass on one more property there. How I can do that? Just name your property anything. Like in this case, I'll name it as cool cars. And then when you say this cool cars, you can simply use JSX notation, and you can say this dot props dot and whatever the name you have get there. Like in this case, it's simply cars. Okay, that is cool. And if I go back in here, I go and click on the inspect, go to the console, hit a quick reload, and you can see the cool cars is now being passed on. And zoom it a little bit, and cool cars is actually an array, and there we go, we have got an array. So properties are awesome. Now let's just, for the fun stuff, let's just print this in here. Okay, so what we'll be doing, we'll be doing a Command-Shift-D to duplicate this. Now this .props.model is not gonna give us the things. Notice, always don't worry about this, what is being named in here. We are only worried what is being passed on from the component. So in this case, the cool cars. So let's just copy this, and instead of the models, we are gonna say cool cars. Save this. Not gonna do the work, because now it just yells out everything. Now there are good ways and bad ways to just extract the information from an array, but one of the method is .map, which is recently being introduced. It takes 2 parameters, and inside the brackets you again have to invoke a function. So I'll use quickly, let's just say item and I for index. So I'll use a fat arrow function there, and I'll just say, you know what, I want to return, let's have some space in here, and then I'll simply say plus, and let's have an item. Oops, there we go. And as I save this is gonna just yell up everything separated by comma. We can also go ahead and try out with the index as well. I can just simply say like this, I plus, and then we can get 0 for bm1, and just like that. We could also have got a br tag in here, like for example, let's have a br tag. This will look a little bit decent there, but we forgot to add a plus there. Save this, and it gives us an object and everything. I think this is not a good idea to do so, but again, you got the point. Extracting information from an array is not that big deal that we want to have in here, but again, you got the point how we are playing around with the properties. And again, just on to a quick revision, you just pass on the information by creating this kind of things in the component. And you can use default props in here. We'll talk a little bit more about the default props in the next video. And this is all what we have about the properties. Now first understand the properties, and then for sure we'll move on to discussing about the states as well. So that's all about this video, and I'll catch you up in the next video.